Today I am super excited to be talking to you about the Marvel Legends Haslab Sentinel. This has been a very long time coming. I think I put my order in around about July 2020, and then finally, without any notification or any messaging whatsoever, he just showed up on my door on Friday. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, or maybe this is the first time you've heard about this Sentinel figure and wondering where you can get yours, I'll give you a little bit of history when it comes to Haslab. Haslab is basically Hasbro's own crowdfunding source, meaning that there are certain projects, certain items that are too big in scale, too expensive to make, that they would never be put out in the general market because there wouldn't be an audience to be able to afford it or be able to buy it off the toy shelf. Now, these projects are things that fans have wanted for many years, or think are really popular and need to have them in their collection. And what they do is basically they say, this is what we can do. It's a project. If you back it at a certain number, we will make it. And to make the pot sweeter, if you get a certain number of backers, they will throw in little extras here and there. So this is quite a new concept and something that's only been launched in 2018. And over the last couple of years, they've produced special projects for Star Wars and for Transformers. But last year, they turned their attention to Marvel Legends. And the first one up was this Sentinel. Now, you could be forgiven for shrugging and saying, well, we've had Sentinels before in the Marvel Legends range. Indeed, way back when, in the Toy Biz years, we had a Build-A-Figure Sentinel, which was pretty damn cool, to be honest. And then a few years ago, Hasbro did a special Amazon exclusive, which came packaged with a Wolverine, which was bigger again, and, quite a cool toy by all accounts. So why did Haslab choose this Sentinel to be the first one as part of this range, since they've done them before? Well, ultimately, I think it comes down to it is a fan favourite. It's something that most fans want. I think that initial release from the Toy Biz years was kind of tricky to complete. I had most of the pieces, but I actually never got the upper torso, so I never completed it. And that Sentinel now fetches a pretty penny on the aftermarket. Likewise, the Amazon exclusive, well, wasn't exclusive to Amazon. It sold out, and there aren't any more being made, so once again, there's a lot of collectors out there who have an itch to scratch because they haven't got their Sentinel yet. And then the final and probably most important piece of this puzzle is that this is to scale. This is the biggest Sentinel ever produced. So this is significantly taller, as we can see in this image here, than the previous release, which was, up to that point, the biggest one ever released. So this is sort of the ultimate Sentinel, really. And that's before we get to the tier unlocks, where there's lots of extra little goodies, which we will get to. For me personally, I agonised over this a year ago, thinking, should I get it, should I not? I really wanted the Sentinel. It's been sort of a lifelong dream for my collection. I've obviously been an avid Marvel Legends collector pretty much the majority of my adult life. And being an X-Men fan, this is kind of one of those things you gotta have. But he does come with a pretty hefty price tag. Now, at the time of backing it, he was $350, or in the UK, £350. And I have to say, for me personally, this is without doubt the most expensive toy I've ever purchased. And I am not afraid to say that I had serious reservations about it. I'd never backed a project like this before. I was pretty confident that Hasbro would fulfill a promise, but in the UK this had to be done through a chain called Zavvi because the Hasbro Pulse website hadn't been set up in time, so that it was done through an aggregator, which was Zavvi in the United Kingdom. And to complicate matters, this deal was done pre-Brexit, so I wasn't sure whether this was going to have some sort of implications post that Brexit signing at Christmas, whether there'd be all sorts of custom fees or extra charges. I am pleased to say that there weren't, so it was fine. But at the time, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. In the end, I buckled. I decided 2020 had been a pretty rough year. I deserved a treat, so I treated myself to this, and I put the money down, because that's the other side effect. You also have to commit your money instantly. You can't pay in installments, you can't pay on delivery, you have to pay upfront to back the project. So I paid my money. I've waited over 12 months to finally receive him, and here he is. So today I'm really pleased to start digging into this and showing you what you get for your money. I think the first thing to note is that the Sentinel seems to be a kind of generic mix and match kind of Sentinel. I don't think it's based on any one particular look in the comics. It might be, forgive me if I've missed something, maybe I'm not up to date with the most latest look, for the Sentinel, but this doesn't seem to be a particular one that I recognise. It seems to be sort of an amalgam of different looks, and there have been many different designs for the Sentinel over the years, but I think there's some core elements that have been incorporated here that we recognise, and that is of course having the sort of deep purple versus the lighter purple colour scheme, and having that head with the bumps all around the crown there is key, and having the central chest piece that lights up is definitely recognisable in pretty much all the incarnations of what we expect from a Sentinel. Okay, so first off, a quick note about the packaging. It does come in this big brown box, which is great, but as you can see, it's absolutely ginormous, and we can see obviously Merlin here to scale, and it is almost bigger than my fireplace. Now, I'm really pleased to say that the inner box is absolutely gorgeous. It is a work of art in its own right. Beautiful. They've got some artwork here. I'm not sure if this is an original commission or whether this is an image from one of the recent comics. I'm not sure, but it is gorgeous. And the image wraps all the way around the packaging across those 4 panels, which is phenomenal. And I really love that they've managed to incorporate all the different elements that this figure represents. We can see the Master Mold head here, we can see Bastion, and some of the other characters, which I just think it's brilliant. They've done a fantastic job with this. Once we slide the Sentinel out of that packaging, we can see he's in this giant polystyrene box, and there's this lovely plastic plate to keep everything in place. It does just slip off nice and easily, and then you can see there are these individual polystyrene blocks which hold the figure down nice and neatly, which is fantastic. But again, they just slide out nice and easily, and they can slide back in to keep him in great condition. So really, really nicely and very securely packaged. And here you can see in close-up that each element has its own alcove within the polystyrene to make sure that it is firmly secure, and most of it either has this tissue paper to keep it nice and safe, or it has its own polythene bag, which is cool. Okay, wow, here he is out of the packaging and fully on display. The first thing to note about this figure is he is heavy. There is quite a lot of weight here, which is absolutely fantastic. He is huge as well. I think we've established obviously is approximately 26 inches tall, so this is easily the biggest figure in my collection now. He's absolutely ginormous and is super imposing, just as a Sentinel should be. The colour scheme is absolutely gorgeous. It is exactly what you'd expect, and there is this metallic sort of paint that's been used for the plastic, which is fantastic. So it gleams in the light, which is glorious, and yeah, just visually very, very striking, and the overall presentation is fantastic. Now, the mould is absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of different little details here, little rivets, little grooves. As we can see, the piping and the wiring, the actual mold itself is absolutely fantastic. I think if I had a criticism, it might be that it would have been nice to have a few more paint washes going through over these pipes and wires. There are chunks of this that it just molded it into the black plastic, for example, the grey plastic of the figure, and it would have been nice if there just been you know, a silver paint wash or a black paint wash over some of these elements to make it look a little bit, you know, lived in or worn, rather than being, you know, just a very plastic looking. But otherwise, you know, they've done a really nice job. Like I said, the mold itself is absolutely brilliant. I couldn't fault it. Lots of little grooves, a lot of little details, which is great. It definitely looks really robotic, and like it's been, you know, built in a factory, which is fantastic. I love the detailing on the soles of the feet in particular. Those white yellow circles representing the jet boost that allow him to fly are really, really cool and very nicely painted. Just lovely little detail there, which I think is fantastic. And then on his back here, you can see the sort of jet exhaust pipes, where it allows him to fly, which is great. But this piece actually comes off, and it took a while for me to find this until I actually discovered there were some instructions in the box, and you can actually pull this off. Now, you have to pull this off because that's where the battery compartment is. You put 2 AAA batteries in, and this activates the lights, and then this neatly goes back on. So top marks for Hasbro for being able to disguise the battery compartment so well. There's no obvious screw marks or anything like that where you need to put batteries in. So I love that they've, you know, gone the extra mile here to cover that up and make it part of the design. Really clever. And yeah, one word of caution though, be careful, because it didn't want to come off initially, and I was really hesitant. I didn't want to snap it off because it is quite a thin plastic, so I was really worried that I was going to like damage something here. So be careful, just do it very gingerly and it will come off. Now, the head sculpt I think is absolutely superb. This to me looks pretty definitive. This is exactly what I think of when I think of a Sentinel. So I think, you know, fantastic mold, great choice. And yeah, I love the crown and I love the expression on the face. And I think, yeah, there's some little details going on here, which is excellent. I did of course mention batteries, and that's because he lights up. When you press his center chest, you will see the sort of the arc reactor, that's Iron Man, but that central chest piece does light up, and it's really cool because there are 3 different colours we can see. There's green, there is yellow, and there is red, and then there's also what I call a disco option. If you press and hold it down, he will blink lots of different colours all at once. And as you can see, this travels up all the way into the head as well, so he shines out through his eyes, which I love this. I think it's really fantastic. But something to note is that this light is incredibly bright. It will almost blind you, it's so powerful. If I was nitpicking though, I think it's just a shame that the same isn't applied to the hands. It would have been really cool if that could have been affected for the palm of the hands to make it look like he's firing blasts. Okay, and so it's time for the articulation. Well, he does have a ball jointed head, and he also has a swivel at the neck, so you can see his head will turn from side to side, a pretty good distance through that neck joint, which is great. But as I said, his head is on a ball joint, and it is a little bit stiff at first, but if you manipulate it gently enough, you will be able to move it from side to side and up and down. He does have ball jointed shoulders, and thankfully he also has rubber shoulder pads, which are hinged and allow a full range of motion in those ball jointed shoulders there, allowing the arms to kick right the way up there and out, which is fantastic considering its size. There is that bicep swivel, which is brilliant, and there is incredibly double jointed elbows. Again, for a figure of this size, this is absolutely phenomenal, incredible stuff. He also has a pin swivel at the wrist there, so that means his hand can rotate 360 degrees, and of course it hinges, allowing his hand to arch inwards and outwards as well. And whilst we're talking about the arms, I should point out that on his gauntlets there is this cool little flap here, which again aids the articulation, allowing the wrist to bend backwards and forwards, which I think is absolutely fantastic. It doesn't compromise the design, in fact it only supports it. I love this. I think the hands are probably one of the best things about the figure, which might sound a little bit strange, but I think the articulation here is absolutely fantastic. Each digit has its own articulation, which is nice and tight and works really, really well. So each finger, each digit, it can be pulled in to make a fist. Whatever you want to do with those hands, you can do. So they swivel all the way around, and the thumb not only has the digits to swivel, but actually can turn inwards as well. So it is an opposable thumb. It will actually rotate in if you want. So if you want to tuck that thumb behind those fingers, you can do, which is absolutely wonderful. Now you might notice that he has some articulation in the chest here. Yeah, I have issues with this. This does not really want to move on mine at all. Like, there's a lot of resistance here. I can't really get much movement out of it at all. Like, there's a little bit of give, but it doesn't want to hold a position. It doesn't want to click into place. It just doesn't really seem to serve any function. Now, I think it must do. Surely there must be some sort of ball joint in that chest there, but it doesn't want to give with me, and I don't want to force it because I don't want to break this really expensive figure. So if you've got one and that works, please let me know. But yeah, for me, this seems a little redundant and a little bit irritating, to be honest. That said, he does have the ab crunch, which is fantastic, and that allows him to bend forwards and backwards, kind of. There's not a great range of motion, but it's there, and it is pretty decent, which I'm grateful for. He's got ball jointed hips, so he can kick his legs out, which is pretty cool. So yeah, fair play to them on that one. That works really quite well. And of course, this means that he can kick his legs forwards as well. As you can see, pretty healthy distance there. And he can kick them backwards as well, which is great. He's also got the double jointed knees, which is really impressive. So he can kick his legs back at a really good distance, which is amazing. And then he's also got articulation both in the foot and also the foot guard at the ankle there. So that actually slides up and down, which is great. But yeah, the foot, it will hinge backwards and forwards a little bit, which is great. And it kind of rocks side to side, although not a great amount, but enough to support different poses, which is fantastic. Now, something I do have to mention really about the legs is that they do seem a little bit weak at the knees. They're a little bit loose, which means there is a tendency for the figure to want to fall backwards or fall forwards. So this is definitely weakness. Now, this is pretty much what you're seeing is me first time getting him out the box. He hasn't been played with. He hasn't been put in many positions at this point. So he should be a lot tighter in the knees. Okay, now extras. Thankfully, there are that many backers. We actually unlocked 4 tiers of extras and then a couple of little surprises as well. So we got an extra battle damaged head, a Sentinel head, and a Master Mold head. We also got a battle damaged hand, a Bastion figure, a swappable head for Bastion, so he could just be a human Sentinel, and then this other figure, which I can't remember her name, but she's the female human Sentinel, and not one, as promised, but 2 rubber coils to come out of the palms of the Sentinel hands. So I believe this was an extra thank you because that many people backed the campaign, and this was a really nice touch on Hasbro's part because they didn't have to do this, they only promised 1, so to give us 2 I think is pretty cool, and for me, I really want this out. I like symmetry, so I think this is a lovely touch. Okay, so a quick note about the battle damaged hand. There isn't any articulation in this hand, which is a shame. It would have been nice if in the fingers there'd been the same articulation. I know most of them have been blown off, but the detailing is very, very nice. So you can see obviously the palm there has been smashed open, which is really cool. There's not a lot going on the back of the hand, but it's all in the palm, and it looks really good. And I like the little wires that are sticking out of the fingers there where it's been chopped off. Very, very neatly done. Now, a quick note on swapping the heads. It is on a ball joint, but wow, it is. They're a little bit tricky to get on and off, to be honest. So you kind of have to be a little bit forceful with it, whilst trying to be gentle at the same time. As you can see, they do just pop off and pop back on, but you will need to be very careful with that. As you can see here, there is that circle ball joint, which actually is the orb where the lights are, so that's how the light travels up from the chest into the eyes. So you have to be positioned the head just right to make sure that the light does shine through the eyes. But yeah, as you can see, you have to sort of snap the head into place, and you have to apply a fair amount of pressure to get it in. It can be it was a little bit worrying the first time I did it, but I think I'm getting the hang of it now and it's loosening up. But yeah, once it's on, you can kind of manipulate it until it's you're able to maneuver it into different positions. So here he is, fully assembled with his battle damaged head and hand. I think this is really cool. I think another cool little extra would have been to actually have, say, a battle damaged shoulder pad, or maybe even a breastplate that you could snap on and off. That could have had a bit more damage there. I think that would have been really, really cool and effective. But as it stands, this is a pretty good look. I really like it, and I think they've done a pretty damn good job with it. I was personally really excited when they announced that Tier 3, I think it was going to be the Sentinel head. Oh, so good. I love this from the comics. Definitely brings me back to my youth. And I just think it's so cool. I love the way this works when you just spin the head around and the light comes through those eyes. Fantastic stuff. Really, really good. I love this. This is fantastic. Also, this head is significantly larger than the standard head or the battle damaged head. And then, wow, the Master Mold head. Personally, my favourite. And I didn't think it would be, but I love this head. I love the sculpt on it. I love the design of it. And it's gigantic, but you actually get the best articulation here as well. His head is designed in a way that allows maximum rotation, allows it to look up and down a really good distance, and there's something damn creepy about the expression on his face, so I think they've really nailed this. Okay, and here is the coil as it just plugs in nice and easily into the hand. Looks absolutely fantastic and is used to great effect. I absolutely love this accessory. It comes just as advertised in some of those promotional images where we saw him wrapping around Wolverine. They're very easy to manipulate. They hold in place nice and strong, and yeah, it just looks amazing. As you can see from some of these little shots that I put together, Wolverine's suspended in midair there. There's no sign of him dropping off, or if it's coming out the palm, it's nice and secure, and it just looks really effective. I mean, I can just think of some of the diorama dioramas that you could create with this. There's some very talented people out there who do wonderful photo shoots with their toys, and I can just imagine the potential for some fantastic images to come out of this, because this just looks incredible. And clearly already you're starting to see a sense of scale, just how massive the Sentinel is in comparison to your standard 6-inch Marvel Legends figure. Like, he is a giant. And this scale looks absolutely magnificent to me. I absolutely love it to bits. Okay, so you've seen him next to the standard 6-inch. Here he is against a builder figure. So here we have Onslaught from a few years ago, and here we have him against Strong Guy from last year. And if you're wondering how he measures up against, say, a Marvel Select, here is the recent Silver Centurion Iron Man. Again, he completely dwarfs him, so I think you could probably get away with your X-Men Marvel Selects as well if you prefer, and it would still look in pretty decent scale. Here's how he measures up against a 5-inch scale figure. So I've actually used the character options TARDIS and 7th Doctor figure, just again to give you a sense of how massive he is. And for anyone who's curious if they ever wanted to cross universes, this is what it would look like. And then finally, here he is against what was one of my largest figures. I think this was 18 inches, a Spider-Man 2 figure, which had fantastic articulation, had all the digits and everything else. A really great figure, and up to this point, one of the largest in my collection. And yeah, once again, obviously, the Sentinel towers over him. I was personally really pleased to see Bastion included. This is a character I knew from the 90s when I was growing up with that Operation Zero Tolerance storyline. Always thought he was really cool and threatening kind of character. A human sentinel was a really great idea, and I think they've done a great job of translating him into an action figure here. The design is quite simple and quite bland as his costume goes, but the little touches are really nice. The head sculpt in particular is really well done. Although I do think it's a shame that he comes with a pair of fists and he doesn't have at least one open hand. It does feel a little bit limiting, but you know, it's a minor gripe, and you know, overall he's pretty cool. Articulation is pretty standard, what you'd expect from Marvel Legends. He's got the ball jointed head, allowing him to spin all the way around and look up and down. He can look up a good deal further than he can look down, but pretty decent anyway. He's got ball jointed shoulders, clearly, that bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and of course the pin swivel at the wrist, allowing the hand to rotate 360 and arch inwards and outwards as well. So yeah, this is pretty standard, but pretty top notch at the same time. He's also got the waist swivel, which is great, and an ab crunch, which looks great. It works really well with the costume there. There's no compromise on how that looks, so I think, yeah, they've done a good job of that. The hips have those ball joints there, so of course he can arch his legs out, and I think they've done a really good design with this because it's not too ugly looking at all. He's got the thigh swivel as well, which is great, and of course he can kick his legs outwards and backwards really nicely as well. Again, he has the double jointed knees and the swivel at the calf, which is great, and he's got the ankle pivot as well, which allows the foot to arch backwards and forwards and from side to side, which is great. And I really like that he comes with this extra head, which I don't remember being advertised as part of the tier unlock, so this might just be my memory. But this was a really cool surprise when I opened the box. I was like really pleased to see this. Obviously opens the opportunity for army building, but yeah, I'm not quite sure who could afford to build an army at this cost. But if you did buy more than one, hey, you know, more power to you. You've got the option to army build here. And here is the other human sentinel. Again, of course, it is the female design, so we're reusing that female body we've seen a few times before now, which is a really good sculpt and works really well. So in terms of presentation, again, looks pretty much perfect to me. Articulation is pretty much what you'd expect. Again, ball jointed head, allowing it to swivel from side to side. The hard hair piece, which is made of plastic, does definitely hinder the neck movement up and down here, so not quite as strong. It does have the ball jointed shoulders though, and also has that sort of pin joint at the elbow. I'm not a huge fan of this because it is weak. It does allow it to spin 360 degrees and it will arch inwards, but you have to be careful with it because I always worry that it's going to snap off. But yeah, it does work. Again, same in the wrist, obviously spins 360 degrees and hinges inwards and outwards. Has the upper ab torso as well, which is fantastic. So lots of articulation here, lots of range of motion, which is fantastic, allowing her to move from side to side and look up and down. And the legs, of course, are the same as they were on Bastion. They have that joint at the top there, allowing the legs to kick out, and the swivel at the top thigh. And of course, they kick out good distance, although they do tend to arch to the side a little bit. Can't really kick backwards at all, but there is a double jointed knee there, which is great, and also has the swivel hinge for the feet as well, which is great. So there you go. If you're only interested in these characters and didn't want the Sentinel, I've seen a few pop up on eBay for incredible amounts of money. So I'm not sure whether these will ever be re-released, maybe with a slightly different mold or something like that. Probably, but at the moment they are exclusive to this set, so yeah, I think they're very nice. I wouldn't pay some of the crazy prices I've seen, but that's just me. Okay, wow, okay, it's been a longer video than normal. Time for some final thoughts and some conclusions about this. Overall, how do I feel about it? Yeah, I think this is pretty fantastic. I love this. If I was going to give it a star rating, which I am, I would probably say 4. I really love this. I think it's a fantastic sculpt. I think the paint apps are nice. I think the light up effect is really powerful and really great. I love the articulation, particularly in the hands. It's brilliant. And those extras that we've got, those extra tier unlocks, are just the icing on the cake. Some of those head sculpts are just magnificent. Absolutely love this. So you might be wondering, okay, why did I knock off a star? What's holding this back? Well, there's a few different factors to consider here. First of all, in terms of the figure itself, well, I'm a little bit concerned about those knees. It isn't a deal breaker, it's not terrible, it's not like they're really super loose and falling apart, but they are looser than probably they should be. And what worries me is I don't really feel I can leave him standing unguarded unless he's firmly secured and supported by something, because I am constantly worried that he's going to fall forwards, backwards, and do some serious damage. And of course, there's no way of replacing him if that happens, so I'm a bit paranoid about him, which isn't a great feeling to have. Secondly, I would have liked a few more paint apps on this. I think what we've got is great, but like I said, there's big chunks of areas which are they're just molded in the plastic, whether it's black or grey, and it would have been nice just to have a bit more shading running through this, just to give it that realistic look, that detailed look, you know. I'm not talking about loads of extra detail, because the mold is great. I just wanted a little bit of extra paint wash here, just to make it look a little bit more real, I suppose. Also, I can't quite get past that chest joint. That's a problem. Now, this might just be unique to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But it is a key feature. This is a key point of articulation where he should be able to turn from side to side, because he doesn't have it at the waist. He needs it in the chest. It is in the photos, so like I said, maybe it's just me, but I don't want to risk it. Like, I just feel like I don't want to be too rough with this and force it to snap or just not work. It's not worth it to me after spending this much money on it. So, you know, that's, again, not a good feeling to have. And then finally, well, we've got to talk about it, the price tag. Is it worth the £350 that I paid for it? Now, let's put that in context, because the dollar price was $350. Now, in UK money, that's significantly more. Conversion rates between GBP and USD fluctuate all the time, so this might be a very different picture from this time last year, but as of today, this is what the conversion rate looks like. By paying £350, I paid really the equivalent of, well, just shy of $479. Now that's nearly $500 there. So this is this is a lot more money for the exact same product that you're getting in the US. And I really think it should have been an equivalent price. Now, fair enough, I'm sure there's people who are saying, yes, but you have to consider the shipping from wherever it's come from, whether it's China or the manufacturing fees and then custom fees, and that was all included, and absolutely that is true. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I was worried about the Brexit charges and things like that, so yeah, that's all a factor, and I take that on board. But nevertheless, that is a significantly higher amount to pay. So then I have to come back to the question and say, well, is he worth it? Now, let's take this in consideration. First of all, in the UK, you pay roughly about £20 per figure normally for a Marvel Legends figure. Okay, so we're getting 2 of them included with this, so that takes us up to £40 straight away. Okay, then have to think about, well, when they do a deluxe figure or basically a re-release of a builder figure, he's usually about, what, £40? So you've got to scale that up. This is significantly bigger. This is a huge undertaking. He's a big, heavy, solid figure, and he's got all those extra heads and the coils and extra hands and all that stuff. But what I come back to is, well, he is still just made of plastic. Okay, it isn't made of steel. It isn't made of. There's not die cast. There's not a chrome plating. This is still your basic plastic materials that you see in any other mass-produced product from Hasbro or any other toy company. Now, I fully accept there might be extenuating circumstances. There might be other things that I'm just not even beginning to comprehend about the economics of the situation, how things work in the toy world. I am not an expert. I'm just a consumer. So, hey, if my thinking is off, I apologize. But ultimately, I just don't know how they justify this cost. I really don't. Because to my mind, what do I think he should be charged at? I think a fair price would be probably £150. That's just my thinking, the way I reconciled it. But I think his actual worth, yeah, probably £150. Now, I think if you wanted to scale that up a little bit and make significant profits, yeah, fine, okay, let's take it up to 200. I just don't understand that leap from 200 to 350. Where's the value in that extra £150? I kind of would have liked to have seen a voice chip in there. Let's have it make some sounds, or, you know, like I said before, maybe have a swappable breastplate that could be more battle damaged, or one of those shoulder pads. Maybe some lights in the hands. Something else to kind of, you know, say, yeah, this is a really deluxe fancy thing, and it's got all these extra bits and pieces. Now, it is deluxe, it is fancy, and it does have a great range of extras, but I think, you know, to justify it, there could have been a little bit more. I don't think would have had a higher cost value attached to it. Basically, I'm not sure I'm convinced by this model that Hasbro are exploring at the moment. I know it's working for them, hence why we got Galactus this year. And once again, I was agonising whether to get him. I love Galactus. He's even bigger than the Sentinel. And, you know, he lights up and he comes with all those extras. He's got a lot more figures this time around. And, yeah, he's a very cool thing. Do I want him? Yeah. Did I get him? No, I passed. Part of the reason for that is, well, he's £400. That's a lot of money, and again, significantly higher than $400. This has put him closer to, like, what, $550? You know, this is a lot of money. And they were asking for this before the Sentinel had arrived, so I wasn't about to commit to another huge purchase like this. Although, you know, Hasbro's secure, I don't think they're going anywhere in the next year. I'm pretty confident they would get it out to me, but it is asking for a lot of money up front before I've even had the last one in hand. So, you know, yeah, sadly I've had to pass on Galactus. And to be honest, my old Toy Biz one, which I did manage to complete as a Build-A-Figure, I love that thing anyway. Obviously he's a lot smaller, he's going to seem pretty puny in comparison, but you know, he will do me just fine. But I do worry about this new model that Hasbro are employing, because obviously it's going to be something they do every year. Maybe they'll even step it up if it becomes super successful, and this might be the way they go in the future for a lot of projects. But it feels to me like, you know, they know they've got a captive audience, they know they're going to meet this quota, and I feel as if they know they can jack the price up more than they need, and I think they're making a heck of a lot of profit on each one of these. I'm not sure how much it would cost logistically to make one, but I don't think it's anywhere near hundreds and hundreds of pounds or dollars to produce each one of these. So I think the profit margin is significant. Now, that's just coming from me, so I'm not making any claims. And like I said, I don't work in the industry, I never have. I'm just a consumer, but it just doesn't add up to me. But once all said and done, do I like the Sentinel? Hell yes, I love the Sentinel. He's going to be the centerpiece of my Marvel Legends collection. This may be the only time I go in for the Haslab. I might make a liar of myself this time next year, depending on what they release then, and depending on my financial situation. But you know, I am really happy with him. You know, he's pretty cool. He's pretty exciting, and if nothing else, my cat is definitely getting lots of lots of value out of the packaging. So everyone's a winner. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.